Imagine waking up at 4 years old, groggy from anesthesia, and realizing the right side of your body feels impossibly light. You reach over, yet your arm is gone. David Diaz was born in the Honduran highlands in 1985, a kid who chased marbles down dusty alleys until a deep ache flared in his shoulder. The village doctor shrugged. The pain kept spreading. When the swelling threatened his life, David's mother sold 3 goats and her sewing machine to fly him to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis. Doctors found an aggressive bone cancer. The only chance of survival was amputation. So at 4 years old, the boy everyone called David became Lefty. Months of chemotherapy followed. Nights stretched under buzzing fluorescent lights where David vowed that if he lived, he would wring meaning from every borrowed second. Teenage years. Unable to swing a bat, he drifted into a Memphis pool hall. There, he mastered wicked spin bank shots with a single hand. One Friday, a trucker cracked open a worn deck of cards. Texas Hold'em flooded the felt, and David felt his pulse surge. Cards cared about brains, not limbs. He haunted $5 home games after flipping burgers all day. Players smirked at the one-armed kid, until he raked their chips with a sheepish grin. His so-called handicap became camouflage. Opponents underestimated the silent teenager reading their fear the way others read headlines. But smoky backrooms were only the first ante. Thousands of miles away, under the blinding lights of Las Vegas, a single river card and a $500,000 decision were already waiting for the boy who refused to fold on life. The road from smoky Memphis basements to the glare of Las Vegas wasn't a straight line. It was a potholed back road, paved with late bills, busted bankrolls, and one stubborn heartbeat. When David Diaz finally scraped together $10,000 for the 2011 World Series of Poker, he wired every cent to Nevada and boarded a budget flight with nothing but a worn backpack, a rosary, and a promise to his mother, "If I bust, I'll still come home proud." Day after day, he leaned over the felt, shoulders squared like a fighter tucking his chin. Commentators whispered about the one-armed rookie, but their surprise turned to shock when Diaz outmaneuvered a field of 1,340 players. In the final hand, he slow-played pocket aces, trapped his opponent, and captured a gold bracelet worth $352,000. The rail exploded. Lefty, the kid who once struggled to lift a school book, hoisted a trophy with one hand and a grin as wide as the strip. Money poured in, but clarity blurred. For 2 summers, Vegas felt like a permanent midnight. Bottle service booths, high-stakes pits, and nights he couldn't remember taped over by receipts he couldn't hide. Then came the Rio incident in 2013. Security found him arguing in a service corridor, whiskey-fumed and furious. Caesars Entertainment banned him from every property for the season. Overnight, the rising star was barred from the very stage that made him. Shame hit harder than any cooler. Diaz flew home, twitching with regret. He unpacked the bracelet, set it on his nightstand, and stared at it until dawn. Somewhere between the reflection of gold and the buzz of a dead phone, he chose a different bet: sobriety. 12-step meetings replaced nightclubs. Morning runs replaced dawn blackjack. When he returned to cards, it was the low-roof circuit tour, Biloxi, Tunica, Cherokee. Now he traveled alone, driving himself, carrying his own bags, shaking hands with disabled vets who saw in him the proof that scar tissue doesn't end careers. 5 years of grind rebuilt the bankroll and the trust. By 2022, Caesars quietly lifted the ban, and Diaz walked back into the World Series with a single-entry seat to the main event, a record-breaking field of 8,663 dreamers. He wore no patch, no sponsor logo, just a faded St. Jude wristband. Reporters barely noticed, but old-school pros nodded. They'd seen this look: focused, humble, dangerous. Day 1, C. He folded more hands than he played, treating chips like oxygen. Still, by midnight, he bagged $78,000, whispering a prayer of gratitude. Day 2. A short stack shove with ace and 10 cracked pocket kings. The rail whooped, "Let's go, Lefty!" Day 3. The money bubble burst, and half the room sprinted to call families. Diaz stayed seated, eyes closed, feeling the felt beneath his fingertips as if it were a pulse. Momentum gathered like a desert storm. On day 5, he flopped a set of 8s, value bet 3 streets, and leapt past 5 million in chips. Yet variance never forgets. Early on day 6, he lost a coin flip and plummeted to 12 big blinds. Interviewers hovered, expecting collapse. Instead, Diaz chuckled, "I've been short-stacked since 1989. He pushed with suited jack and 8, caught runner straight, and the legend of the one-armed survivor spread across Twitter faster than the chip counts. Night fell on day 6. 24 players. Bright lights, heavy air. Every elimination was an echoing thud. Chairs pulled back, duffels zipped. Diaz's table moved to the feature stage, LED walls looping his childhood photo next to pristine player headshots. He slipped on noise-canceling earbuds, but you could still hear the rail. "Fold 'em, lefty. Feel the pulse." His stack climbed to 17 million. Just enough to dream, never enough to breathe easy. Then came the hand that would rewrite his story. Blinds. 400,000 and 800,000 with an 800,000 ante. Diaz peeked down at pocket queens. Jeffrey Farnes, a composed Oregon pro, opened under the gun. Diaz flatted, wary. 2 others folded. The dealer fanned queen, 7-7, rainbow. Top boat. Gasps rippled through the stage. The turn brought a harmless deuce, the river another queen pairing the board again. Farnes shoved. Pot size nearly 17 million. Call and lose, and Diaz's miracle run ends. He leaned back, fingers drumming the rail, eyes scanning Farnes's throat for a single pulse. What he saw, or maybe what he felt, froze him. After 3 minutes, Diaz slid his cards face down into the muck. The gallery erupted in disbelief. Farnes later revealed pocket 7s, quads. Diaz had dodged the guillotine with a laydown commentators, instantly branded the fold of the decade. But survival has a price. He was left short again, 9 big blinds, and the blinds were climbing. The episode broke broadcast records, memes, think pieces. Wounded but alive, Diaz looked skyward, touched the St. Jude band, and whispered, "One more orbit." The dream was down to one last shuffle, one last miracle the very next day. Day 7. 23 players remained, but the room felt smaller, tighter, each breath synchronized with the shuffling of the deck. David Diaz perched behind his modest stack, one sleeve tucked into his hoodie. Eyes steady, heartbeat loud enough, he swore, to rattle the chip racks. The blinds rose to 500,000 and 1 million. Diaz looked down at ace and queen of hearts, pretty but brittle. He shoved for 8 million, a French pro called with pocket 10s. Flop. King of hearts, 9 of hearts, 3 of clubs, flush draw. Turn. Jack of diamonds, open-ended straight. River. 10 of hearts, the flush landed. The crowd detonated. Diaz doubled and then some, fist pumping the air where his right arm used to be, as if the phantom limb could feel the victory too. 3 hours later, only 14 hopefuls lingered. Short once more, Diaz picked up ace and 7 on the button and pushed. British pro Toby Lewis woke up with queens. No miracle arrived. 5 community cards later, Diaz's chips were gone, and the dream run ended in 13th place, good for $525,000. Silence landed before the applause. Diaz slid the payout ticket into his pocket, then turned to the packed bleachers, cancer survivors, veterans, old Memphis pool hall buddies, and bowed. Reporters rushed forward. One asked if he regretted folding that full house. Diaz smiled. Regret? Regret is wasting a second chance at life. I made the right fold then, and I'll keep folding fear every day after. He walked off the stage, stopping only at a St. Jude donation kiosk by the exit. A few taps, a quarter of his winnings pledged. The receipt printed, curling like confetti in his hand. Outside, neon bathed the Las Vegas night, but Diaz lifted his face to a darker sky and let the desert breeze cool the sweat of battle. For a one-armed kid who once couldn't lift a milk carton, carrying hope had never felt lighter. And that's how one-armed man David Diaz shocked the World Series of Poker, bagging a $525,000 main event payday. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible poker underdog stories.